Just let me know when you're good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, here we go. John, I appreciate you making some time this morning, man.
Happy to do it. Yeah, I'm excited to meet you.
And I'm excited to chat with you as well because I've known you through the private track for a bit, followed your posts, and I got the privilege of talking to your son a while ago. So why don't you give people a little backstory? Where are you located, and um, who are you?
I live in Northwest Indiana, which is Chicago TV, if it gives you an idea. Just south of Lake Michigan, on the Indiana side, south of Chicago.
Okay. And
Um,
you,
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
yeah. Well, I was going to say, yeah, most of you know John Andrew Frayak, who is my eldest, who is a pillar on the Linchpin video boards. Uh, he's not shy.
He puts up some good videos.
Kid's a machine. Yeah. I'll have to tell you about the first time I introduced him to CrossFit.
Oh, I look forward to that. Did you see? I'm sure you did. You saw his video the other day of him climbing the rope in his tree and the rope snapped.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah. That is,
The
I was
outdoor
just,
rope is cool, really cool. That's the risk of having an outdoor rope is the environment eats away after at a bit. But climbing a rope outside is like quintessential old school CrossFit as you can possibly be.
I remember reading that one book about the original fire breathers and how they were doing it underneath a bridge abutment, kind of. It was Amundsen or whoever it was, but it was very visual. And then I've heard Boz talk about, just basically having a junkyard and dragging stuff around. So that's the main thing that I've learned about CrossFit is it's where you find it, and it doesn't have to be um, all these special machines. Your body's the special machine. Move your body. Stuff I wish I'd have known at 15 instead of 52, but it's great. It's working. So yes, I saw him fall off the tree.
Yeah, kids, hey, our kids are always our kids, right?
27. He's a father of three. He's a law enforcement officer. The kid's my hero, and he's an absolute machine of fitness right now, which is the
A
best I could have
hundred,
hoped for him.
100%. So you said you've been in the banking industry for a long time, huh?
It'll be 29 years in January. Um, I'm a market president for Horizon Bank, which is a local bank here. I've been a commercial loan officer, so business loans, my whole career. My dad was a banker before I was for 51 years. So yeah, there's been a John has taken a different course. So there's if there's a third generation, it's on the other side of that door right now.
Okay. And what is the environment right now with commercial lending? With some drama in the banking industry and all that,
Hmm.
I've heard that it's at some very much lows compared to historical norms. Is that fair to say?
That's probably fair to say. It all depends on the industry you're in and the location in the country you're in. We have a tremendous amount of commercial real estate development going on here. Someone finally bought a globe and realized how close we are to Chicago, and all the main expressways and railroads go right through here. And so there's been a lot of industrial buildings building. It's very much of if you build it, they will come right now. So
Okay.
there's been a lot of that. Once the rates come down, there'll be more movement on regular stuff, people buying equipment, people buying things. So elections have impact on that, the psyche of how do we feel? What do we, do we invest? Do we not invest? And people tend to hold on. I think they put a little too much importance into it myself, but economies are going to do what economies do. So
But in the commercial side, is
mhm.
it largely for real estate? And if it is real estate, is it largely industrial? Is it what you said is very popular?
Um, right now, there's a lot of warehousing, industrial, cold storage, that stuff's being built up around here. But it's anything. It's small. I've made my bones doing small businesses. Think the guys that want to build CrossFit boxes, they'll come to a guy like me, and we'll do all the math and make sure it works. Um, welding shops, tow truck companies, trucking
Okay.
companies, that kind of stuff. Those are constant. Those that's called commercial industrial, which is what I've made most of my career doing.
Okay, so let's say somebody watching this is an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, wants to open a welding shop, wants to open a garage, wants to open a cross stream, whatever it happens to be, it falls under the umbrella of small business.
Yep,
They think it's a great idea. They think you should give them capital to make this happen. They
absolutely.
walk in fired up with just rainbows shooting out of their backside, the whole nine yards. What is it that you're actually looking for that's going to make you smile or frown?
Experience in the business, competence, good, the traditional stuff. What is your cash flow going to look like? What are your projections? Do they make sense with what I've seen in the past? That's one of the advantages of being an older guy in this business is I've likely seen it before. Have they saved enough money for a downstroke? Do they have
Mm,
angel investors somewhere that what you don't want to have is that the bank is the only partner you have. And we don't want to have all of our money in the game without you having money in the game. So, equity matters, a good business plan, something that makes sense. Um, yeah, all of that. And we've got
how much?
partners.
How much are you looking for the owners to bring to the table? Is it 25%? Is it 35%? Is it more?
Depends on what it is. But there are wonderful programs with the SBA, Small Business Administration, that can reduce that down to 10%. But
Hmm.
yeah, 20 to 25% usually is what we're looking for. And that can come in various forms of either cash or equity in a property that they already have, things like that. So we try to be creative. I don't make money by not making loans. Let's put it that way.
Sure, right. And what is it, you said, which makes sense. You got to have some cash reserves for a downfall, getting the business off the ground, tough times or whatever. Is there a general number of months you're looking for a small business to have in reserves if somebody's, curious to go down this path?
I don't know. I think there's got to be it depends on the business, right? So what is the question really ultimately becomes, okay, what does your cash cycle look like? When you're spending money, how quickly is that money coming back to you? Let's use CrossFit as an example. Like theoretically, on the first of every month, you're going to get a big cash infusion from your membership. How many members is it going to take to break even? And then how many more after that to get to a certain threshold where the bank is happy? But if it's something that's an easy one. That's simple. That's I've got 100 members. They're paying me $150 a month. That's probably cheap. Um, and so now I can do the math on that versus here's the what it's going to cost to pay my people, to turn the lights on, and then eventually pay the bank. So there's
And
equations that go involved.
what is what's the hard reality of you know, hopes and dreams versus now you're looking to actually commit your capital and your reputation to saying, I believe in this business plan. You've got to stick with the CrossFit gym, which maybe resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
You've got somebody they're sick of their 9 to 5 job. They got the dream. I'm going to train people for a living. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to get to live out my fantasy. They come in, they've got nothing but hopes and dreams, and like, no, it's the don't worry, we'll get to 100 members quick, we'll get to 200 members quick, and you're like, what are you basing this off of? So what, like in those sort of a situations, the first timer,
Yeah.
what, how do you assess that business? I'm just genuinely curious.
Most of the time, you have to remember, and again, I'm just going to spin it back on you as a coach. Like people are going to walk into your gym and have not a clue what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I always describe it when I go talk to the people that work in our branch offices, right? And they say, "Well, how do you talk to people? How do you communicate with borrowers?" And I say, "Look, it's very simple to me. Let's say I have a home improvement project, and I go to Home Depot, um, and I walk up, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing." And I'm standing in front of a wall of tools, and a very nice person in an orange vest comes up and says, "Sir, can I help you?" And I go, "No, no, no, I'm fine." "Oh, I'm
Mm,
not fine.
right.
I don't know what I'm doing." They're the expert. And I tell our people, "You're the expert." So um, a lot of the conversations we have, I mean, the hit rate on the conversations you're talking about versus to actually get through to a funding of a loan, it's very low.
Mm,
Because most people are coming to you in those first conversations is, I don't know what I'm doing. I hate my boss. This is what I think. What do I have to do? So there's a lot of
hmm.
educational component in what I do. We try to be trusted advisors to our clients and say, look, from my experience, this is what you need. Are you sure about this? You're going to quit your job? Okay, well, how are you going to pay for this and this and this and this? A lot of it is to, take the heat off of and say, look, there's some reality here of what you're looking to do. And if I have some expertise, I'll give it to you. And then eventually, for the most part, I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues the other day. When you have those difficult conversations, and there are ones you turn down, and very infrequently are they ones that 10 years later you go, I turned that down, but there they are, and they're doing great.
Mm,
Most of the
hmm.
time, people say when you start saying, "Look, I need this, 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 and this," people go, "Okay, I'll get back to you," and then you probably never hear
And
from them.
they don't.
Yeah. So it's a lot of
Interesting.
education. There's not a tremendous amount of mystery to what we do. It's never been more important for bankers to let clients know how the sausage is made. If, and the old school guys never did that, but for my generation, no, this is what I need. Here's why I need it. Here's why it's important. You're asking me to be an equity partner in your dream. You're saying, banker, I want the bank's funds, which you are in charge of, to help me go build this CrossFit box in Winfield, Indiana. Okay, well, I'm responsible for that. So we're allowed to ask questions and we have an open dialogue. And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. But hopefully more no yeses than nos.
And is it true what you hear, which is that there are some businesses that historically speaking, or just statistically speaking, would give you the heebie-jeebies and some less so. If someone says, I'm going to open a restaurant, you're like, oh no. And others that you're like, okay, yeah, that historically speaking is a very durable enterprise.
Sure. Yeah, I can't tell you the amount of times I've looked at people that are going to try and buy the bar they work at. And
Ah,
magically, this bar has been open for 100 years and they just can't seem to make a profit on paper.
right.
And then they'll go, well, and I'll go, yes, but if you're not afraid of the Internal Revenue Service, you're definitely not going to be afraid of me. So it's not what I know, it's what I can prove, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Make your profits, pay your taxes, and the best advice I can give to any new business owner is do it right from day one. Get yourself a good accountant, a good banker, a good attorney. Listen to them, and you'll be okay.
Interesting. Okay, fascinating. I'm always just fascinated by what people
I
do.
was not prepared for a banking conversation, but obviously I have them every day. So,
Yeah, I mean, we could also just go down a totally different rabbit hole. It's where it seems financial institutions and things are going in general, which is like digital assets and all kinds of like just I mean it's a bizarre, interesting, fascinating new world that I think the world that my kids grow up in is going to be quite different than the one that I grew up and knew.
well, the most obvious change, and then we'll move on, is branch banking. When you were a kid, you probably walked into a big building where there's this big lobby and you with your mom or dad or whoever, and you walk in and you get your little sucker and you do the whole thing, and there was this huge building. Those are not happening anymore.
Mm,
The average age of people walking into a bank is significantly older than you and I. So the new generation, most branches, the traditional drive-ups, those are
hmm.
going to go away. And what you're going to have are called ITMs, which are interactive teller machines, which
Huh.
you're going to go through just like a regular drive-through, but it's a small building. And you're going to press a button and it's going to be like you and I talking. And you're going to be in Thousand Oaks, California, wherever you are. And I'm going to tell you what I want to do. And then you're going to go, dit, 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 and it's going to spit out as if there was a person in that building. And you're just going to we're going to interchange over the internet.
Oh wow, because most things are just done over your phone or over the app or over
Yes.
whatever it happens to be.
So when we're
Huh.
about to build a new branch that I'm working on right now, and it's going to be you're going to walk in the door and 3 steps you're going to be at a teller line. It's not the long walk anymore because there's no lines. Those were made for lines. Well,
Right.
everyone's paid digitally now, and most of the time you're just not walking into a branch. So it's spaces equals money, right? We've got to heat and air and do that.
Well, I was going to say for the actual institution, if they can significantly reduce the footprint of their locations, it's less employees, it's less overhead. I mean, that makes them a more profitable
Correct.
organization for the shareholders. And interesting.
Growing pains. We'll figure it out.
So then you'll be just sitting at home on a Zoom call all day long, or waiting for a teller or so. If somebody
I
needs
hope
to
not.
get a commercial loan deal, well, it's great for efficiency.
Hmm.
But man, there is something nice every now and then about sitting across the table from an actual human being, shaking their hand,
I
and having a real conversation.
That's a separate issue from what I do. That's branch banking. That's I need to cash a check. I need to do this.
Oh, I
I am
see.
I am
I see.
absolutely still a firm believer, and I tell my team all the time, you go to your closings. You physically go out and see where we're invested. You sit in front of people. That's not going to change. The what I do is called relationship management, and if Linchpin has a banker, that banker should come see you every once in a while, and you should go see them, and it's that advisor role. It's hard to do over this. So,
Agreed.
yeah, I need to
Because you're
smell
right.
I need to smell the shavings of a machine shop.
The business plan obviously has to make sense. You're not going to invest in something stupid, but it's
Mhm.
also been my personal experience, not that this is indicative of anything other than my personal experience, but people do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Correct.
And that's tough to do via screen.
You also have to be involved in the community. They have to, especially in my industry, you have to be involved in nonprofit boards and out and visible and a name you can trust because that's really a lot of where referrals come from in my business is I know this person from that board. Oh, they're a banker too. You should call them.
Hmm.
That matters. You have to prove yourself in the market and in the community and be seen. So yeah, I think the after COVID, you had we're all trying to figure out what the equilibrium is between this,
Hmm.
sitting in an office and doing the thing. And we talk about that all the time of the younger generation, they all just want to sit in their houses. And well, I'm not that young anymore, so I like to be out. I like the ritual of getting up, getting dressed, going to a place, doing my job.
Yeah, interesting. And when you're not doing your job, you like to lift.
I do. Nice transition.
Thank you. I try. It's funny. I talk about fitness so much that, like, every person that I talk to, they do something different. They have a different foothold in the world, and it's fascinating to learn about what each person does.
Best part of
But
my job.
but then, of course, we're also united through fitness. And you told me you've got your wife doing Linchpin as well, and
She
John's
doesn't ever
doing. You're
post
making
on
it a
anything, but
family affair.
yeah, it started with me, and I think I shared in my email to you that how did you get into CrossFit? Well, you kind of got me into CrossFit because I found it on Netflix, the 2015 games, and
Yeah,
you're hysterical in that one. And then I think it was the next one where you were talking about Kara Webb and good luck, she'll kill
right.
you. Um, and I'm like, oh, I like this guy. And Woodland made this great comment of you don't know what an unstoppable cyborg of fitness you have to be just to suck at the CrossFit games. Um,
100%.
and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I've heard about it. You hear about it like the cult stuff in the background, but I was never intrigued. I'd just been a lifter my whole life. And like most lifters, it's, um, well, we don't really want to do legs today. We don't want to cardio. I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
And I had sort of in 2016, a realization that I had little kids and I was really heavy and unhealthy and needed to get some help. So I reached out to a lady I worked with. She helped
Can I
me.
ask you about that? Because you mentioned that in your email and you said that, you kind of fallen in love with some lifting or some Joe Weider weight sets when you were a young man. I can relate to that. And you kind of, you said, stuck with it pretty much through your whole life. But then you said in your, was it 20s or 30s or something, that you got through a period where you became very heavy and very unhealthy. What
Mhm.
caused that change of where you got very heavy and very unhealthy?
Um, just a complete lack of understanding of nutrition, how to eat. I was no disrespect to my folks who are gone, but they didn't know any better.
Neither did mine.
Mom was a terrible cook. God love her. Yeah, we had my dad. I explained that in my family, my on his side, I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Whatever my BMI is, I look like Arnold because my paternal grandmother was probably 5'4", no kidding, 400 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
we came from Polish Eastern European thick stock. And you know, I didn't have anybody emulating a healthy lifestyle. My dad smoked. We had pizza every Saturday night with fries.
Pizza and fries.
Pizza
Pizza's
and
not
fries. Correct. And everything came out of a can, and I hated vegetables because it was all out of a can, and just a wildly unhealthy because I didn't know any better. My mom and dad both came from very poor upbringings. So they just didn't know, and I didn't know. And I think I made a comment in there that, I always loved reading Muscle and Fitness and Flex and the Arnold book, and I just sort of never read the nutrition stuff because I was more about, look at, I want big arms.
Hmm.
And so I had gotten to a point where Um, I was easily over 300 pounds. But I was sort of blinded to it. I wasn't aware because I didn't try to do anything fitness wise. It was just more about lifting heavy things and putting them back down. And I had a really lost weekend, if that makes sense, with food. I've never been a drunk. I've never done drugs, but food was always been the issue, and it sometimes is when the depression or the anxiety hits. You just
Hmm.
reach for bad stuff. And John was around for that, and I remember the night I reached out to this lady at work, and I said, "Look, I need help." And she was a nutritionist. She was a CrossFitter. Um, and I'll never forget, she responded, "I'll help you if you're serious.
Mm.
Like, don't waste my time." And I said, "No, I'm there." It was like my rock bottom. I was really big, really heavy, nothing fit. I was just gross.
Doesn't sound like
And
an enjoyable way to live.
it was not. And all of this comes around. We had made a family trip to Disney World in 2015, and I had these babies and I was just wildly unhealthy and we're eating McDonald's all the time and fast food and just bleh. So she goes, "Well, do you have MyFitnessPal?" And I said, "Yep." And she goes, "Okay, I'm gonna calculate your macros." And it was the if it fits your macros. And I had always understood dieting as punitive.
Mm.
Well, you've gotta just completely be miserable or it's not going to work. And how many times I said, I had some fries today. And she goes, "Yeah, I'm not your priest. Does it fit in your macros?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." She goes, "Okay, then." Just so I lost a whole bunch of weight the first time. My parents get sick. I put most of that back on because I'm spending most of my time in hospitals and stuff. My parents passed in 2018, and then I got real serious about it. And that's when I lost 45 pounds, I think. I remember I wanted to get the picture of me holding the 45-pound plate.
Oh, that's cool.
And like when you lose that much weight and you actually hold one of those plates, you're like, "Oh my God." Um, and that that goes up and down a little bit depending on where I'm at in my brain or any given time. But
I got a question. Oh, I got a
Mhm.
couple questions for you before you head
Yeah.
on. Number one, what was your go-to order at McDonald's?
Oh, back then, I would probably do a quarter pounder, and oh yeah, supersize it, of course, supersize it. I'm a big, strong man, of course, because somehow in my head with my dad,
Mm.
that was part of becoming a man, is I could eat with my dad. Um,
Did you get a soda? Was it a shake?
oh no, it was a soda. Yeah, I would get a diet, but that's
Right, right, right.
just for taste, not for any health reasons.
The other question I have is when this woman helped you out, getting you on a better path nutritionally, you're using the
Mhm.
MyFitnessPal and all that. Did she present anything to you that was a big light bulb moment? I guess my question is, is what she said or your take on nutrition now very commonsensical? And when she said, you're like, yeah, I know that I shouldn't have been eating that. I know I should have been doing that. She just kind of needed somebody else to hear it. Or was there some revolutionary information that was presented?
Um, I will tell you that I knew that I needed someone to be the Sherpa, right?
Mm,
I needed accountability, but part of it, I remember the day I did this, Pat. I was like, all right, you're going to sit in this office and you're going to open an Excel spreadsheet and you're going to type in every macro for every fast food meal you've been eating.
that's powerful.
Oh,
Yeah, numbers don't lie.
oh my God. And I'm not going to defame anybody, but you know what they are. And
Sure.
like, oh my God, half of my calories were at lunch in one burger.
Packed with some calories. The
Oh
density is
my
crazy.
God. And then you start the reality of when you start eating better is all of a sudden you're like, I feel better. I'm sleeping better. My joints don't hurt as bad. The inflammation's
100%.
gone. My clothes
100%.
fit, and it happens really fast. So at that point, I started drinking kind of nothing but water. So I drink like a gallon of water a day. Um, and it's funny because even then it was about the losing of the weight. And I thought I'll do that. It's the same thing with people. I always see you don't have to be healthy to do CrossFit. You have to do CrossFit to get healthy.
Mm,
But I was still in that mindset of I'm not ready for that.
hmm.
And so I lost the weight. I felt much better. I could move around. And then I remember Greg's 100 words and how
Yeah.
simple that seemed. And you know what stuck me and continues to stick with me is the learn and regularly play learn and learn new sports
Hmm.
and play new sports. Because I remember vividly I was playing beer league softball in my 20s and I scraped up my elbow or did something. And I remember my dad saying, don't you think you're getting a little too old for this? And I was like, well, my dad said I'm too old for it. I guess I should quit.
Mm,
And I look back at that moment and go, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're
right. No,
supposed to
I
go,
agree.
no, I should do other stuff. I should do,
Keep using your body for as long as you can in new and creative ways.
oh, and that's been, so you talk about whether her name was Danica Balich, still is, who never took the proper credit for helping save my life, but she's been great. Um, it, the revelations come just through the learning process. Turns out I really love chicken breasts. Really love.
Mm,
And
who would
uh,
have guessed?
and Shannon, my wife, she does, and we meal prep pretty regularly. I'm out there grilling in the middle of winter and
Yep.
different kind of bastes and stuff, so the flavor's different. I remember I remember the first time I measured rice. Like, oh my God. And you've been eating terribly for your whole life, so you can't imagine something, that fits in a Tupperware this much is going to fill you up.
Right,
It's
right.
quarter cup of rice, 6 ounces of chicken breast, and all the vegetables that'll fit in there, whatever they are.
Go crazy in the veggies as much as you want.
Yeah. And, as an adult, I learned, man, I love vegetables. I love fruit. I love not as much salt so I can taste stuff.
I didn't learn that till I was an adult too.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And then you look back, like I look at John, my son, and I think, man, you're so lucky that
Mm,
I got this into your head, and
hmm
he's so at an early age he got it. And now I struggle sometimes. The knees aren't what they used to be, and the elbow, I've got golfer's elbow. And but you strap it up and you move. I tell people all the time, you're going to choose your sore. So I'm
Yeah,
52, right? So I can sit in a chair and dwell, and I'm going to be sore either way. So I might as well
right.
go out to the garage or go to the basement where I've built this great gym and do the work. Oh, by the
100%.
way, I I told my Shannon said I wouldn't say this to you. You are an evil man for that workout last night. I don't know the
Is
the
it
dips.
the wall ball over hit squat
No, no,
one?
no, no. Last night, the dips and the
Oh, yeah, pull-ups, dips, and then the burpees.
and then so basically, you took a 30-minute P90X workout and went, you're going to do all those reps, but you're going to do them in 10 minutes. And then you can rest for a few minutes. And then you're going to die because you're going to do 102 burpees.
Oh, it's nasty.
I'm like,
Nasty.
oh God, Pat, you bastard. But I did them and I loved them and I love it.
Mission accomplished. I I've got another question for you for the nutrition because I think this is an area where my personal experience and interaction in strength and conditioning over all these years is with regards to compliance. Compliance is such a huge thing. Like lifting weights works.
Hmm.
Sprinting works. Eating healthy, we could define what that means, works. The problem is you're either doing it or not doing it, and then you blame something else as to why
That
you're
one's
getting
binary. Yeah.
the
Hmm.
results that you want. But it works. And so compliance and getting a high level of compliance is one of the most important things in the world because if you're not doing it, it ain't going to work. And so life will throw you ups and downs and strikes and gutter balls and the whole nine yards. And the goal is that regardless of whether you're at a high or a low, you have found a way to still be highly compliant with a strength and conditioning program and with a healthy way of eating. So my question to you is, because you lived this, you said things went well, then you went through the loss of your parents, a difficult time, went off the wagon again. What
Hmm.
have you learned now with that in the rearview mirror that even if life isn't, just dealing you roses, you are still making good decisions?
So thank you for asking that because it gets to the next point. So I had kind of a lost winter last year. Still worked out, still followed all the programming, but you find yourself like, I deserve that.
Mm,
I deserve this. It's not bad. I'm just doing a little bit here, a little bit there. And next thing I know, um, I've got to stand up in front of a crowd in a tuxedo, in May of this year, this previous, and it's February or March, and I'm like, you know what you've been doing.
hmm
Get on the scale, and face what it's going to be. And I did, and I went, okay. And I wasn't upset. I wasn't mad because I've been here before. And the difference between 10 years ago and now is, you know, you already know the secret. It's simple, it's not easy, but it's
Right.
simple. Sweat every day, don't eat like an idiot.
Yep. Yeah.
It's that simple. And I set the goal. All right, you got 20 pounds to lose. And I think I lost 12 by the time I got in the tuxedo, and then I eventually lost the other 20, and I'm back to kind of where the equilibrium weight is. So it's the you once you learn it, you don't unlearn it. You can know exactly how to fix it now. There's going to be times when there's winter depression, and there's going to be stuff that goes on, or you just sort of don't pay that much attention. For me, it's one I have to pay attention to it. But if I don't and I find myself off track, your clothes will tell you, and that's the beauty of it is I'll never get that off track again because
Hmm.
if I've got to loosen the belt one time, no, back to it. And
That's
it's
your early warning system right there.
correct. If I, I remember the first time I did the rower after I had lost some weight, I'm like, oh, this is easier. There's less in the way.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
as we talked about, when you start eating healthier, it doesn't take long. Your body feels better. You're not swollen. Your clothes fit better. You feel better.
Yeah.
Uh, so the bottom line is, I'd love to say that once I cured the problem didn't exist anymore. It's not true, because there's this thing in your brain um, that fights you and says you deserve that. You
Yeah.
deserve it. Go get an ice cream cone. You deserve it. And that's fine. One's fine, but then one a day is bad, right? So
The discipline.
discipline, yeah.
'Cause I
And
don't want to live a life devoid of ice cream. That actually doesn't, that sounds like a life less bright and fun than the one I want. But if I live a life of only ice cream, that's going to lead to a horrific path as well. So having the discipline to uh, at least have me be in control and not have that delicious item be in control. That's the goal.
yes, and knowing the way back
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
is half the battle. So it's worked out well for me. John keeps me honest. I keep him honest. He fights the same battle I fight. Um, he's
I'm with you, man. I don't really miss workouts, even if I don't enjoy them. For some reason I don't even want to call it discipline because it's easy. Like I think discipline is something which maybe you have to exert some effort, but I can always make myself walk out there and do something. I really can. But the food, that is the place in my life that requires discipline. That is something that
I've
there's
heard you talk
a
about it. Yeah,
constant war. There's a constant war and there's casualties on both sides.
correct. Yeah, because your brain, it's funny because as I said, I don't do drugs, I don't drink. Um, I have history of that stuff in the alcoholism in my family, and I stopped drinking long ago. I'm not an alcoholic, but the food thing
Mm,
is one where I can understand where your brain actively fights against you and says, you know, I know you brought chicken and rice, but you're out. Just grab a double cheeseburger, whatever you're gonna do. Um, oh,
it's
going
just one
back.
time, right? It's not going to hurt.
Yeah,
It's just
right. And
one
then it's a
time.
slippery slope. Now all of a sudden I have all that salt. Well, now I need some chocolate to counteract the salt, right?
Or you go down the path where you're like, well, I can't believe I did that. Today's a wash. Screw it.
Screw
I'll
it.
do what I want for the rest of the day and I'll start again tomorrow.
Right. Correct. So I'm happy to say there are less of those days than there used to be. A lot of it has to do with having healthier food around all the time.
Mm,
Instead of chips, get some grapes and just a couple strawberries and I have someone very diligent on me most of the time, which is good. Um, so I'm a creature of habit, and when I break those habits, it tends to you tend to go the path of least resistance. And
10.
my, but I like we talked. I've always been able to get the physical part right.
Mm,
From the time I started, there's some pictures of me when I was 15 years old, and in the back is a homemade calendar I have made with all the X's of the days I worked out. Wasn't doing my homework, but
right.
I was curling a lot. Um,
You had
you
your
know,
priorities straight.
oh, good. Well, it's funny because I always tell people like when you first pick up weights, it's usually because you're either getting bullied at school or you just like that. And then somewhere along the line you go, well, girls like muscles. And then
Hmm.
so you're working out for that reason. And then eventually you get to me at 52 and going, I want to stay out of a retirement home. But the workout itself it's you need the endorphins, and it's the best way I have ever found to stave off depression and anxiety and just get out and start. Some of the best workouts I've ever had are the days when I'm like, I don't want to work out. I don't want to work out. I don't want to work out. And once you start, last night was an example. I'm looking at that. I sat there for 15 minutes looking at your programming, like, oh shit.
I
Do I
don't want to
really?
do this.
I don't want to do this. Uh, and I scaled appropriately and did the things that I do. What that's one of the things I love about your programming and your messaging is scale it the way you need to scale it. I mean, if my knee hurts that day and I can't do certain things, well, I've done this game long enough that I know what the intended stimulus is. So figure
Mm,
I am not built to run long distances, but you know what? I'll run 200s all day.
that's
So
going to get it done.
a lot of times when you'll program 400s or 800s or whatever, I'll take it and go, all right. I think it was one a couple of weeks ago when you did like it was 1600 meters running. It was
Hmm.
throughout maybe 3 or 4 rounds. Like, well, I'm doing that in 5 or 6 rounds,
Nice.
and I'll
Yeah.
split it up. And high rep sit ups give me ab cramps every time.
Mm.
They always have every time. So you break those up. Instead of doing 40, I'm going to do 20, and I'm going to do 6 rounds of it. Um, and
It's a
so
great way to do it.
it's you guys have given me that education where you're like, you've talked about it. Just look, we're just trying to give you the best hour of your day, man. we
Yeah. I
don't
mean,
stress about it.
you're
Just
always
get your work done.
authorized to make the right decision for you.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah. So last night I'm in the basement. I can't do pull-ups because I'm 6'2" and I've got an 8 foot ceiling. So I'm modifying and I'm doing some self-assisted work, getting the stimulus, doing the dips, right back and forth, and then cursing at you most of that time as I'm looking at the burpees. And you know what's funny about it is I am in my head about these burpees. I'm like, oh God, oh God. He just made me do I ended up doing 65 of both, right? For in
Nice.
that 10 minutes. I got into I think I finished the 11th round on the second.
Nice job.
And I'm like, I have no arms or chest left. And this evil bastard wants me to do burpees.
Yeah, exactly.
I ended up 1 rep short of a PR on the burpee.
Oh, look at that.
And
Human body.
it's almost like this stuff works and the
Right, right.
program works. So yeah,
That's very cool. Well, maybe maybe in closing, what would be your advice or recommendation or lessons learned to somebody who maybe hears this, or sent it to somebody who needs to hear it, that they've gotten off the path that they know that they should be on, and it seems overwhelming to change their lifestyle?
that's a big one. Um, I I think it's just
Mm,
start. Um, for me, the avenue, as I told you, was you guys in those first videos, and Katrin and Ben Smith that first year, and getting inspired to do those. And from a fitness perspective, like I said, I did the bodybuilding stuff, and then P90X, and then I found you guys. But really, it's whatever the thing that you hate, you got to do more of that. Um,
quite true.
burpees. I hated burpees. Before I started CrossFit, I hadn't jumped rope in my life
Hmm.
because I was a
Mm-hmm.
little kid and I couldn't figure it out, and I just never did it. And then I got into CrossFit. I'm like, I got to learn how to do this. I don't know that I'm ever going to get double unders, but I'll do single unders all day long
That's
now.
fantastic.
So it, there's a path here, and I've tried to explain to everybody. Like, I've given that Learning to Breathe Fire book. I don't know if you've ever read it, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple of really good CrossFit books, and the Learning to Breathe Fire one is to me the most relevant because it's just like as we started this conversation, you all you need is your body and Mother Earth, really. The
Right.
rest of it is just the accoutrements of that. I love the way you program where you've got if you got everything, here's what you're doing. If you got nothing, here's what you're doing. And
Mm.
and for me, I look at that every day and go, what do I have today? What do I have in my body today to do this? The eating part is the eating part. And there's a reason that's the foundation of the pyramid. Um, as I've said earlier, when you eat better, you feel better. It's not rocket science. It's simple, not easy. But
Very, very
find
true.
yourself somebody that you can be accountable to if that's what you need. I've never set foot in a CrossFit box in my life. I've only done it here. It works for me because I've got John built in that sometimes he comes over and we work out. I heard you asked him whether he's caught me on all the lifts.
Yeah, yeah. He gave you credit.
I think he's caught me on everything now. I'm not sure. I might maybe deadlift. Maybe I still have him, but kids, I can't compete with that. He's
That's
27 years
pretty
old.
that's pretty awesome though. I mean, it's pretty cool that it's a family affair. Well, John, I I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you sharing your story. Appreciate you being a part of Linchpin and letting everybody know what it's looked like through your eyes. So thanks, man.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Pat.
I will see you online, my friend.
Sounds good.